So, Shazam! Isn't that so much fun to say with the exclamation mark and everything, you know? So, Shazam is DC's latest film, kind of like post Justice League. It's kind of interesting to think of, this new crop of DC films as kind of being post Justice League, because it always felt like when I got to the end of Justice League back in 2017, it felt like like DC was starting to learn, like they were starting to get to start taking their steps forward to making better superhero films. Now we saw that with Aquaman around Christmas time. It was a little dumb, but it felt like a more classic adventure. But now we have Shazam, and Shazam. It's interesting. It feels very much almost kind of like a throwback superhero film. Kind of like the days of like Richard Donner, where it feels like that very like classic sense of superheroism, but at the same time, essentially being its own thing, while still respecting the lore and kind of like the atmosphere that you kind of expect from Captain Marvel. I mean, you don't want to make this stuff too gritty. This is a superhero who fought evil worms from outer space. It's not something you need to go that gritty with. So the story involves magic. There's this ancient wizard played by Daman Hassoun, and he is seeking someone to give his powers to continue his battle against the seven deadly sins, which are in demon form, that he's been trying to hold back for all these years. So he's seeking, someone who's pure of heart, who can inherit his magical abilities. And then he finds Billy Batson, who he thinks has enough heart, even though he's kind of a troublemaking orphaned 15-year-old who's on the streets looking for his mother, who mysteriously disappeared when he was a kid. But then Shazam says oh well, maybe Billy is the one. And so he gives Billy his powers and says all you have to do is say my name and you'll have my powers, and my name is Shazam. Now this is an important part of the film, because Billy smirks at this, and this is what I love so much about the film. It embraces, what Shazam, and if you want to call it like Captain Marvel before all the licensing stuff, it embraces what that character is supposed to be, and the world that he was in, and the tone of what the superhero is going to go through, but at the same time smirking at it and having fun and recognizing that this is a little bit silly, because it is a silly premise, because when Billy says Shazam, a big lightning bolt comes down and he instantly transforms into this big buff wizard with a lightning bolt on his chest and a ridiculous red outfit and white cape. Now he's instead of being played by Asher Angel, who plays Billy, he's now played by Zachary Levi as Shazam. And it's pretty much, a lot of people note that, it's kind of similar to Big in that aspect. In fact, they even make kind of it's kind of blatant, but it's also kind of subtle reference to Big at one point in the film, because they're aware of this. They know what's going on here. There's a 15-year-old inside this adult body that has superpowers. So this immediately impresses Billy's roommate in foster care, who's played by Jack Dylan Grazer, whose name is Freddy. And Freddy he's all about superheroes. He adores Superman. He has like a batarang. He loves talking about superpowers and all that. So now his best friend has superpowers. And he's like, oh, we got to document this. We got to have fun with this. It's cool enough that you're an adult, but an adult with superpowers? Oh, we got to do something really cool. And I love the fact that this film sets aside tons of time to have fun with discovering Shazam's powers. And it's also a great way to reveal all his different superpowers. I just found out you have super speed. It's like, oh, maybe we should test to see if you're bulletproof. So we'll go stop some robbers. We'll see if you're fireproof. Can you fly? Well, you can kind of fly, but maybe we'll check it. And they shoot all these fun viral videos. They have great chemistry together. I love how they kind of maintain like that big aspect, where they try to buy beer and stuff like that. Very, very fun, cute stuff. And I love how it kind of like slowly gets us used to the powers of Shazam in such a fun way. Now, of course, he's a hero now. They don't quite settle on a name because of like the licensing stuff. So they keep joking about, what name Shazam is going to have throughout the film. So we got to have a villain, though. For every hero, there's got to be a villain. And there's a doozy of a villain. We've got Mark Strong playing Dr. Savannah. You might remember Mark Strong. He's played tons of villains before, but he also played the villain of Sinestro in 2011's Green Lantern, which is perfect casting. And as for here, I think it's pretty perfect casting here too, because Dr. Savannah, he's kind of got it out for Shazam. You know, he was contacted by the Wizard at one point, but he failed his test and wasn't able to attain those powers that would have given him, you know, magical abilities. And so he embraces the demons. You know, he wants to get Shazam's powers, and he's going to embrace the 7 deadly sins, which, you know, they need a little bit of a down payment of his eyeball, so they take out his eye so he can have like a little bit of an evil eye, if you will. And then the demons that he takes with him get to go on a rampage here, which and I feel like I got to address this right away. Some people are thinking, you know, hey, you know, this film, because it feels like big, it feels like it could be like a kid-oriented film. And I would say yes, but I'm going to say this. You know, I think it should be more for kind of like older kids, because when Dr. Savannah gets those demons, at one point he kind of lays waste to a boardroom of people he's kind of had it out for his whole life. And it kind of turns into a horror movie at some points here. Like a lot of the powers, like any scene that involves Dr. Savannah, there's quite a few deaths that are a little bit horrific. So just warning the parents out there. We're just warning the parents. But in terms of, you know, I love how this film, it has fun with the superpowers, but I also love how this film kind of almost not almost, it does throw shade at the rest of the DCEU. They do make they make like a few like subtle jabs at like Batman versus Superman, and they make one big jab at Aquaman towards the end of the film. And the humor's great throughout it, but I also love, and we got to address this too, because a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, you know, DC is just, they're trying to make their films more fun, you know, ever since, you know, Batman versus Superman, you know, it was too dour, people thought it was too depressing and dark, and, you know, Batman killing, it's like, we don't want that anymore, they just want dumb fun. To them, I would say, consider Billy's past in the film, about, you know, like the loss and trying to feel like you don't have a family anymore. This aspect is treated very earnestly and very genuine, where it kind of makes you a little bit choked up when there's one scene in particular. I won't mention what goes down, but it's kind of like the moment where Billy realizes that, you know, that he's got to grow up, and that he's got to, that he's going to have to go it alone and kind of like basically make a new family for himself. Now, thankfully, he's got a great foster family. He's got a, you know, like parents who are like way too, not too protective, but kind of like trying to be a little bit hip, but they're kind of on that level of being cool, but not quite there. Those kind of parents. And then you have like there's like 4 other foster kids in the home that Billy's staying with. And they're all adorable. You know, you have like a kind of like the dorky nerd. You have kind of like the cute youngest girl. You have the one girl who's kind of going out to college and is just, you know, just her brain is all a mess. And it feels kind of like they're mostly just kind of like side characters who we wouldn't see that much in the film. But when it comes to the third act, they're pretty much the heart and soul of this film. And that's why I think it's better embraced as kind of more of a kid's film than anything, is because the kids are mostly the stars here, and they're pretty damn good. They're a lot of fun to watch. They're very witty. They have great timing and chemistry to them. They contribute a lot to referencing the rest of the DCEU. It's just adorable, and I love the soundtrack. Also embraces a little bit more of those Richard Donnerisms I was talking about here. Where it kind of feels like the dorkiness and the kind of like the classic adventure fun of like the Superman movies. I think that's really present here, and that's why I really enjoyed this film. That a lot of people are calling it like, you know, like the best film of the, you know, the DCEU so far, and it's hard to disagree with that. I mean, I had a lot of fun with this film. I loved the way it I loved its humor. I loved its genuine approach to, you know, to family and loss. I love the kind of like the giddiness of it, of like exploring superpowers, and the action scenes are fun. You know, of course you'd expect them to be good. I mean, the film is about I think it's about like $100 million, and you have Shazam showing off all these powers of, you know, speed and flight, and you know, and then he has to like fight Dr. Savannah in these really cool battles with demons. And it still maintains that humor throughout the film, in addition to its heart about family and camaraderie. and embracing who you are, more or less, and all that essential stuff that makes a great superhero story. So I feel like, yeah, I mean, when you compare it to, like, you know, like some of like the MCU Marvel films, you know, it doesn't feel like it's touching on anything that heavy. I mean, yes, that sense of family and loss is there, and it's played up with the great honesty. You know, is it on like the same level of, you know, kind of like rewriting the rule book on superheroes, or is it, you know, is it like culturally relevant in some aspect? No, not quite on that level. But in terms of kind of like, you know, DC going back to their roots, kind of like, you know, kind of like just like a classic type of superhero film, it works exceptionally well, and it's what do I tell you? It's just it's a lot of fun, and especially, you know, as someone who's huge into DC, you know, I grew up reading the DC comic books. It kind of feels like it's embracing some of that humor that was from like Teen Titans Go to the Movie, in terms of how it's like commenting on like the rest of the superheroes and being witty and very aware of itself, while still having fun with all this, like these magical powers and demons and just a kid in an adult body. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, I saw this film 3 weeks ago, and it's still fresh in my mind. I cannot get enough of this film. It's a lot of fun. What can I tell you? So for Shazam, 4 out of 5 stars.